My point is that that's up to these parents and how they see fit to protect their children. It's not your job. And I understand that you may have a save the children complex when it comes to people like us, but there's
if you want to call it a save the children complex, I'll buy that. You can call that. You can say that about
it. You can be with save the children, but the children are perfectly safe here.
Not with him, sacrifice.
Hard. Listen, you don't need to agree with anything. But respect is free.
I don't know what you mean how.
It's respect free.
What makes you say you're a who?
Because psych evaluations, doctor's appointments, there are healthcare professionals in this country under the NHS. This is Scottish Family Practice, this is the NHS.
But this is reality. That's
It's not your reality.
It's your warped version of reality.
It's very warped. The psych is warped. You're leaning on it.
I'm warped. You're standing there like that. And you say I'm warped. You're standing there in general.
This is the thing. People have bodies.
Parading in front of children.
Are you afraid of my body?
I'm not afraid of it. I'm afraid of your influence on children.
What influence?
And I'm also...
What influence?
I'm also concerned for you personally.
Thank you.
I feel like the road you're going down, it's not going to end well.
If it was a woman who was assigned the gender female at birth, you would not have a problem with this outfit. Because it's a transgender woman.
So you would be
sitting outside.
If there was a real woman walking around like that, I would say that's...
If there was a real man with a head of hair...
Listen. Are you such a playground? Grow up.
Grow up. You're the one that's standing here with a sign that you're leaning on so no one can read it.
Try and engage in sensible discussion. If a woman was walking around...
He's embarrassed to be here.
I would say...
He's got his goggles on, babe.
I would say...
And he's just fucking recording for his fucking wife back, you know what I mean?
I would say, if there's a woman wearing what you're wearing, I would say that's completely wrong.
But would you protest it?
Yes.
Would you?
Yes.
You would genuinely
If a woman went into
what does the Scottish Family Party stand for?
I would say that's absolutely wrong.
What do you mean by sexualising children? Because in my opinion, to sexualise a child, you would need to put that child in a sexually compromising position. Yeah, you would.
How about get a strip on stage? Would that be sexualised?
What that sexualises is the stripper on the stage. That's who's sexualised. I make complete sense. One can only sexualise oneself.
So a stripper performing for primary school children.
I can only sexualise myself. The same way you can only sexualise yourself.
So a stripper performing
anyone who observes that is not being sexualised. That's the thing.
Wow.
Are
you filming this? So this man here thinks a stripper in a primary school will be quite... Okay.
Listen, if there's a stripper on stage right now, that's up to those parents to take those kids away from it. That's completely what it's down to.
You'd be fine with it, but a stripper...
Personally, I am okay with people expressing themselves as long as everyone's okay to watch that. So if there's parents in there, don't try to twist my words, if there's parents in there who do not want their children to see acts like that, of which there's not any acts like that today.
Would you have a problem?
My personal view is obsolete. It doesn't matter what my personal view is, simply doesn't matter what yours is. We're really arguing facts.
But you have just given it. You just said that you'd be okay with it.
I do not mind expression the same way you said you're for people expressing themselves.
So you wouldn't mind a stripper performing for primary school children?
Do I think a stripper should be performing for primary school children? No, I do not.
Would you have a problem with it?
Would I have an issue with it? I don't have children. I have kids. So to say I'd have an issue with it that's a stint too far. I have children. I didn't say I said I would not want a stripper performing for children.
So if you didn't have children, let's say you're children 5 or 6, this gentleman dressed like
this lady,
just be a bit
Just start presenting you with fucking head of hair. You have fucking head of hair.
And she's
I'm not going
back at you.
I'm not going to refer to you as something that you're not.
So would you be happy with this, someone in this outfit being around your children?
Yes, because if I have children, okay, it's up to me if I want my child exposed to someone in an outfit like this. Yeah. That's on me. That's on me.
So
as a parent, that would be on me. That would be anyone else's right to have. What I allow my child to do is up to me. What I do with my body is up to me. Okay? I cannot sexualize a child unless I go out of my way to sexualize that child.
Which is what you do.
Now, I'm going to be honest with you. You can only make yourself sexual. I can't make you sexual. You can't make me sexual. How does that...
Well, that was interesting, wasn't it? I hope you could hear it all. I'm going to talk through it. Now, before that, I'd say do subscribe to the channel. Do click the bell icon as well so you actually see our videos when they come out. But that conversation was very interesting. That gave me a bit of insight into the way that people on the other side of these debates think. I learned a bit. about their thinking, their ideology there. Now, earlier on, I was accused of having a save the children complex, like some sort of mental health problem. Now, they quite like this sort of line. Everything's a phobia, or in this case, a complex. It's mental health language. They don't like moral language. We tend to talk about what's right and wrong. They tend to like to talk about, what's a phobia or a complex. But when they said you've got to save the children complex, I replied by saying, yeah, sure, I'll accept that. That's fine. But what they're suggesting is that some people have got this psychological disorder that causes them to think that they're saving children from corruption by the likes of sexualized drag performances. I mean, as an argument, it's non-existent, but it's interesting to hear that line. I hadn't really heard that before. Then we got to the issue of whether that person was a man or a woman. I didn't know. I still don't know what their status is. I don't know if they've got a gender recognition certificate or what. As far as I was concerned, that looked like a man. But the reply saying the NHS says that he's a woman. It's like the NHS is the final authority. I mean, does he have a gender recognition certificate? Very possibly. And he says, our placard, a man can't become a woman. Well, that's just the Scottish Family Party. That's just like a lunatic fringe view. It's not the official view of our society. And in terms of the official view of our society, they were absolutely right. Because the law in the UK says that a man can become a woman if they get a certificate from the government. Now, all the debate about Gender Recognition Act reform, that's just playing around the edges. How long should it take? Doctors sign the form, whatever. The basic issue is that there's no such thing as changing sex. A man can't become a woman, and that there just shouldn't be a legal option for that. The NHS shouldn't be pushing this idea as well. But that's the situation we're in. As far as I'm aware, the only party in Britain who wants to repeal the 2004 Gender Recognition Act is the Scottish Family Party. So we now come on to his outfit, which I would say was overtly sexual, the sort of bondage style neck bit as well. And I was asked, basically, what would I think if a real woman wore it? And I said, well, I would think that would be appalling. Wearing that around children, totally wrong. But then I thought, can you think of a context where that would happen? Is there anywhere, any sort of event where women wear that type of outfit around children? I just couldn't think of one. It would just be seen as totally out of order. But it seems like the normal standards go out of the window once it becomes a Pride event. And that's just an example of it. Now, the really interesting thing about what they were saying, they're basically saying there's no such thing as sexualizing children, because you can present what you like to children in terms of sexual content, public nudity, whatever. The children have to choose to be sexualized. They said an adult has to choose to be sexualized, but it's the same for children. Now, the issue with adults, let's leave that to one side. Maybe talk about that another time. But for children, they're saying it's up to the child. So no matter what someone does, no matter what someone presents them with of a sexual nature, that doesn't sexualize the child. If it does have an influence on them, and the child starts acting sexually, for example, well, that was the child's fault, if you like. They've sort of consented. They must have wanted it in the first place. Now, I thought I hadn't really heard that put like that before, and it's a very dangerous line, but it reminded me of Colin Morrison, Dr. Colin Morrison, the leader of the Scottish Government's Sex Education Resource Project. In his dissertation, he said, companies get criticised for selling sexualised products to children, as though they're sexualising them. But Colin Morrison said, no, this is not true. It's not the company's fault. The children only buy them because they want them. So the company's not sexualising the children. The company is just providing an outlet for the natural sexuality of the children, which again, totally disagree with. So the question I asked them was, so should there be strip shows in a primary school? Would you have a problem with a strip show in a primary school? And the response was a bit all over the place, but it was basically the stripper only sexualises themselves. They wouldn't sexualise the primary school children by performing a strip show in front of them. Okay? Because you can't sexualise another person sort of without their agreement, without their cooperation, if you like. Then they seem to be saying it's up to the parents. Then it's okay as long as everyone's okay with it. It's not up for me to say because I don't have children. And then when I really cornered them, he did say, well, no, it's sort of not okay. But everything he'd said so far was basically going on the line of it is sort of okay, because children are only sexualized if it's what they want. Now, of course, at that point, I could have said, the man there in his overtly sexual outfit, I could have said, have you obtained the consent of all the parents here for their children to see that? But then I thought, maybe that's not such a great point, because if you take your children to a Pride event, well, what are you expecting? Obviously, this is the sort of thing you're going to see. So the line they were basically taking, their argument was, you can do what you like around children of a sexual nature, show them what you like of a sexual nature, teach them what you like of a sexual nature, you're not sexualizing children. Because if they respond to it in some way, then that's just their choice. They're showing that that's what they wanted. Now, if you look at this from the point of view of a paedophile, this sounds great, doesn't it? So a paedophile grooming a child for sexual activity, well, they're not sexualizing the child. They're just enabling the child to make their own decision. They're enabling the child to fulfill their own sexual desires. That's the way that would be interpreted. Well, that's what they're arguing. That's how it would apply to that situation. Because it's never the adult's fault. Any sexual activity or feelings or whatever awakened within a child, it's not the adult's fault. It's the child's choice, free choice, that has happened. So from their point of view, in sex and kids, like teaching kids or introducing children to sex, basically, it's a bit like teaching them to count. So you keep saying to them 1, 2, 3, 4, and you keep trying, and for months or a year or whatever, you don't get anywhere, you don't get any response. But then eventually, the child latches on and manages to say 1, 2 or whatever, and you're away. You've taught them. Well, they think sex is like that. You keep introducing children to it again and again and again. Then eventually, at the stage the child decides they want to explore it, then they will do. But that's just totally wrong. This introducing sexual content, sexuality to children when they're too young is harmful and corrupting. So my conversation with those people was quite helpful. And know your enemy. Know their arguments, and I learned a little bit about their arguments. If any of them are watching, they'd like to debate on the live stream or in another context, I would be more than happy to do that. But do please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.